Hello Army, welcome back to my channel, and today we are talking about something that happened in the Korean media landscape during the Arirang comeback era that has been circulating across social media platforms for weeks now and that I think deserves a full and proper breakdown. Because what Korean media wrote about Jungkook during this comeback is not a collection of casual compliments or the kind of promotional language that entertainment journalists routinely produce during any idol's major release cycle. What they wrote is specific, it is considered, it carries the weight of a media establishment that has been covering Korean popular culture for decades, and it culminates in two titles that have never been simultaneously given to any single individual in the entire history of K-pop. The first title is National Treasure Center. The second title is National Treasure Level K-pop Crown Prince. And today we are going to talk about what these titles actually mean, why Korean media chose them specifically for Jungkook, what the specific moments and qualities they cited as their evidence, and why the global reaction to these designations tells you something profound about where Jungkook stands right now, not just in K-pop but in the broader cultural landscape of 2026. Let's get into it. First, let me tell you exactly what happened and where this came from, because context is everything. Star News Korea, one of South Korea's most prominent entertainment news outlets, published an article specifically about Jungkook during the Arirang comeback promotion period. The article focused on Jungkook's presence in the Netflix teaser posters and trailers for the BTS Comeback Live Arirang concert, specifically his appearance in the promotional visuals with Gwanghwamun, the ancient gate at the entrance to Gyeongbokgung Palace, one of the most historically significant locations in all of Korea, as the backdrop behind him. And what Star News wrote in that article, in the professional and measured language of Korean entertainment journalism, gave Jungkook two titles that fans have been talking about ever since. National Treasure Center. National Treasure Level K-pop Crown Prince. Both. Simultaneously. For the same person. And neither one was a casual choice of words. Let me start with the visual context that prompted these designations, because the images that Korean media was reacting to are genuinely extraordinary and understanding them helps you understand why the language escalated to the level it did. In the promotional materials for the BTS Arirang comeback, Jungkook appeared in a black setup suit with a belt close to his waist, creating what Star News described as an elegant class full of classic style. The suit was not decorated or elaborate. It was precise and clean and dark. And against the backdrop of Gwanghwamun, the gate that has stood for more than 600 years, the gate in front of which statues of King Sejong and Admiral Lee Sun-shin stand as permanent monuments to Korean national identity, Jungkook's presence in that image created a visual contrast and a visual harmony simultaneously. The contrast between the modern idol in the sleek suit and the ancient gate behind him. The harmony between the man who represents what Korean culture has become globally and the structure that represents what Korean culture has always been at its deepest roots. Korean media looked at that image and immediately reached for the language of national significance. Star News described what Jungkook did in those promotional visuals this way: he overwhelmed viewers by showing off his unrealistic crown prince figure with an unimpeachable charisma and mysterious atmosphere toward the front with Gwanghwamun in the background. Unrealistic crown prince figure. That phrase. In Korean entertainment journalism, calling someone's visual or physical presence unrealistic is the highest possible tier of physical compliment. It means that what you are looking at does not seem like it should exist in the real world, that the combination of features and proportions and presence assembled in one person exceeds what normal human beings are supposed to be able to achieve. And combining that with crown prince figure places Jungkook not just in the category of idol-level attractiveness but in the specific and historically loaded category of Korean royalty, the aesthetic language of the Joseon dynasty, of power and refinement and cultural significance accumulated across centuries, applied to a 28-year-old from Busan who was standing in front of the gate that those dynasties built. Star News then broke down the specific physical dimensions of what they were describing, and the detail of their analysis is worth paying attention to because it reveals the precision with which Korean media was engaging with Jungkook's visual presence rather than simply deploying generic praise. Unlike his small face, he showed off his superior physicality with his wide shoulders, and his absolute handsome aura with sculptural fantastic features was impressive. Small face. Wide shoulders. Sculptural fantastic features. These are not the adjectives of someone writing quickly to meet a deadline. These are the specific observations of someone who looked very carefully at what Jungkook was presenting in those images and tried to articulate exactly what made it so visually overwhelming. In Korean beauty culture and in the aesthetics of Korean idol culture specifically, the combination of a small face and wide shoulders is one of the most prized physical configurations possible. It creates the visual impression of proportions that are more extreme and more elegant than what human bodies typically produce, which is precisely why Star News used the word unrealistic. Because when you look at the actual images, the ratio genuinely does not look like something that should exist. And Jungkook's face, with what Star News called sculptural fantastic features, adds a dimension of carved aesthetic precision to a physical frame that is already operating at the extreme end of what human bodies can look like. Then came the specific designation that became the center of everything. Jungkook, called the National Treasure Center, exuded the unrivaled presence of the #1 authority just by standing. National Treasure Center. Let me break down what each word in that title means in the context of Korean idol culture and Korean cultural discourse more broadly. The word center in K-pop refers to the member of a group who occupies the central position in choreography and promotional materials, the person who is considered the visual and performance focal point of the group, the person whose presence anchors and frames everything around them. Being the center of BTS, the most globally famous K-pop group that has ever existed, already places someone in an extraordinary category. But prefixing that with national treasure elevates it from an industry designation to a cultural one. In Korea, the term national treasure in Korean is an official governmental classification applied to cultural artifacts, historical sites, and objects of extraordinary significance to Korean identity and heritage. The Gwanghwamun Gate itself holds national treasure status. The application of that language to Jungkook is not hyperbole in the casual Western internet sense of the word. It is a deliberate invocation of the highest category of cultural significance that Korean society formally recognizes. And Star News applied it directly to Jungkook's presence and his role within BTS. The second title, National Treasure Level K-pop Crown Prince, extends this framework by adding the specific royalty dimension. Crown Prince in Korean historical context is not simply the heir to a throne. The Crown Prince of the Joseon dynasty, the longest-running Korean dynasty whose architecture is preserved in Gwanghwamun and Gyeongbokgung Palace, was the embodiment of Korean aristocratic culture, educated, refined, disciplined, graceful under pressure, possessed of a bearing that set him apart from all others in any room he entered. The application of this specific historical archetype to Jungkook creates a layered statement about what Korean media sees in him. Not just physical beauty. Not just idol performance quality. But a quality of presence and bearing and cultural weight that connects to something much older and much deeper than the contemporary K-pop industry. They are saying that Jungkook carries himself in a way that evokes the most elevated tradition of Korean cultural identity. And they are saying it at the moment when he is standing in front of Gwanghwamun with an album named after the unofficial national anthem of Korea. The symbolism is almost impossibly complete. Star News further described the specific quality of Jungkook's presence that made the Crown Prince designation feel accurate rather than excessive. Just by standing there, Jungkook exuded the presence of a unique leader, and the slightly visible shoulder tattoos and piercings gave off the bold yet free-spirited energy of an artist. This detail is particularly interesting because it identifies the specific tension that makes Jungkook's visual presence so compelling, the coexistence of the aristocratic and the rebellious, the refined and the free, the Crown Prince bearing and the artist's willingness to mark his body visibly with the evidence of his individuality. In a single frame, standing in front of Gwanghwamun, Jungkook presents both the gravitas of historical Korean cultural tradition and the contemporary artistic freedom that has made Korean culture, through BTS, through K-pop, through the entire Hallyu wave, one of the most globally influential cultural forces of the 21st century. And Korean media saw both things simultaneously and gave him titles that honor both. The public reaction that Korean media documented was equally extraordinary. Fans who saw Jungkook in these promotional materials reacted with comments including, "Looking forward to the return of K-pop's Crown Prince Jungkook, who can build a country with his face, the National Treasure Level Center is overwhelming the atmosphere, how can his proportions be like that, even his standing posture is so cool, and I want to kneel down and look up at this precious handsome prince." The comment Jungkook, who can build a country with his face, is the one that has traveled furthest across international social media and that best captures the specific quality of hyperbole that Korean fans use to describe an aesthetic presence so overwhelming that it feels like it has structural and foundational power. They are not saying his face is simply beautiful. They are saying his face has the generative force of something that creates rather than just exists. And that specific quality, visual presence as a form of world building, is exactly what Korean media was trying to capture when they reached for the language of national treasures and crown princes. Now let me place all of this in the context of who Jungkook is as of April 2026, because these titles did not arrive in a vacuum. They arrived at the specific moment when Jungkook was returning to the public eye after military service, as part of an album named Arirang, a word that in Korean carries centuries of meaning about identity, longing, separation, and reunion, and after a solo era in which he became one of the most documented and most globally influential individual presences in contemporary popular culture. The 2026 Overseas Hallyu Survey conducted by South Korea's Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism placed Jungkook third in the global influential figures ranking, with documented influence across all 5 surveyed regions simultaneously. He is a Calvin Klein ambassador, a Hublot Global Ambassador, a Chanel Beauty Global Ambassador. Rolling Stone UK put him on their cover with a quote about wanting to be an artist without limits. Diplo said no autotune, perfect voice. A 4-time Guinness World Record vocal coach said he sounds like 2 different singers in one person. And now Korean media, looking at him standing in front of Gwangwonmun in a black suit before the biggest BTS comeback in history, says he is a national treasure and a crown prince simultaneously. The convergence of all these designations from all these different sources and all these different professional and cultural frameworks is not coincidental. It is the pattern that emerges when a person reaches a particular kind of critical mass, when enough different kinds of observers, applying enough different criteria of evaluation, arrive independently at the same essential conclusion. The conclusion in Jungkook's case, expressed in the specific language of each observer's field, is that he occupies a category that is genuinely rare and genuinely irreducible. The government surveys say he is one of the most globally influential cultural figures across 5 continents. The vocal experts say his voice contains 2 distinct personalities. The fashion and luxury brands say his presence is the right face for their most premium global campaigns. The Super Bowl director says he and his group are 7 friends who happen to be among the most famous people on earth. And Korean media, looking at him in front of the gate that has stood since the Joseon dynasty, says he is a national treasure and a crown prince. None of these people are talking to each other. All of them are arriving at the same place. The choice of Gwangwonmun as the setting for the promotional visuals is itself significant in ways that amplify everything Korean media said about Jungkook's presence there. Gwangwonmun Square is not simply a scenic location. It is the site where South Korea has gathered for its most significant collective moments in recent history, political demonstrations, cultural celebrations, national mourning, and now the biggest BTS comeback concert in history. It is the place where 260,000 people gathered on March 21 to watch BTS perform live for the first time in nearly 4 years, the place whose historic weight Hamish Hamilton described as creating a production challenge unlike anything in his career. And in the promotional images for that event, with Jungkook standing in front of that gate in his black suit with his sculptural features and his crown prince bearing, Korean media looked at the combination and said, "This is what a national treasure looks like. This is what a crown prince of this cultural moment looks like. This is the person who is most fully embodying, in a single visual frame, everything that makes Korean culture significant to the world right now." The Arirang World Tour has now begun. Jungkook is on stages in Goyang and then Tokyo and then Tampa and then across 34 cities in 23 countries over the next 12 months. The man that Korean media crowned with 2 titles that no other K-pop artist has simultaneously received is now performing live, night after night, for the audiences who have waited years to be in the same room with him. And every time he walks to the center of that stage, not because anyone placed him there but because his presence naturally draws every eye in the room to that point, every person watching, from the most dedicated army who has followed his career for over a decade to the casual fan who heard Swim for the first time and looked up who was singing, understands immediately what Korean media was trying to say. That there is something about Jungkook that exceeds the ordinary categories of idol evaluation. That the right language for him is not the language of rankings or chart positions or streaming numbers, but the language of national significance and historical continuity and cultural identity. That when you stand him in front of a gate that has stood for 600 years and watch what happens, the gate looks like it was always waiting for him to stand there. National treasure. Crown prince. Both. And somehow, neither title feels like enough. Hello Army, thank you so much for watching this all the way through. If this video gave you a deeper understanding of what Korean media saw in Jungkook during this comeback era and why the language they chose is so significant, please hit that like button because it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who care about this story. Subscribe if you are not already here. The Ararang World Tour has just begun and every stop is going to give us more content just like this. Hit the bell so you never miss anything. And drop a comment below which of the two titles resonates with you more. National Treasure Center or National Treasure Level Crown Prince? I want every single opinion. I will see you in the next one. Bye, Army.